The marathon in Boston is run on the third Monday in April every year, and that's opening day not only for the marathon season, but for the garden hoses. People along the course know that on hot days, and even on not so hot days, runners get warm, and they need to be cooled down. So they go in and they get ready, because they're engaged, they're prepared, they bring out the garden hoses, and they provide a nice cooling spritzer to everybody who's running by. And why? Because in Boston, everyone owns the marathon. And when does that sort of stuff really come into play? On days when horror strikes. And on that day, in April of 2013, what did we see when those bombs went off? People did what good sense and sweet reason would tell you never to do. They ran toward those bombs. They ran toward those explosions to save lives, even at the risk of their own. Why would they do that? Because in Boston, everyone owns the marathon. They're prepared and they're engaged. Now, when you run the marathon in Boston, you're doing something that's a little different from most other races. In Boston, unlike every other marathon in the world outside of the Olympic Games, you have to qualify to get in. You have to go out and run another race and run a really fast time in order to just have the opportunity to enter. It's aspirational for people. It's a really, really big deal for them. They want to get that medal. And on that day in 2013, when 5,633 people got stopped, one of the things that was most on the minds of those people who didn't really know what had happened ahead of them was they weren't going to be able to get their medal. And they really, really care about getting that medal. Megan McCarthy, whom you've met here, she's got one of these medals. People really want him. And on that day, they couldn't get there, and they were devastated. And as they began to trickle in, the people who work on the race, the volunteers, displayed the kind of not just preparedness, but ingenuity and creativity for which they are justly famous. A guy, just a guy, guy's name was John Studley, but just a guy, realized that people wanted someplace to finish. They needed something. And so he quickly ran and got himself this little improvised finish line that's used for promotional purposes and to help us in a couple of things. And he ran and he got that and he took it and he put it down on the ground. And when people came in devastated that they hadn't been able to finish and get their medal, he said, no, it's okay. Step across here. And they stepped across that line, and he put the medal on them. And the reactions you can imagine ranged from exultation to tears to everything in between. Why did he do that? Where did all that come from? Well, in Boston, including with that guy, everyone owns the marathon. It's a big deal for me. I keep that picture framed on my wall. I have the actual one he used so that I remember how important all these people are, how their engagement and preparedness matters. And then came the One Fund. You probably heard of that. The miracle of the One Fund, $80 million that poured in from around the world to provide aid to those people who were so profoundly affected by what happened that day. Why did that happen? Because in Boston and around the world, everyone owns the marathon. And they're engaged and they're prepared to do whatever they can.